Imagine you wake up not to your usual alarm clock, but to a dull, guttural thud that makes the walls shake and the whitewash crumble. Looking out the narrow window, you see an unfamiliar street and an endless ring of fire stretching to the horizon and a terrifying forest of siege towers. The city is locked down. Yesterday, you were arguing in the comments under a video, and today, your life depends on a piece of moldy bread and the strength of the oak gates. Can a modern person survive in this situation? You'll find out by watching the video to the end. We're going to the very hell of a medieval siege. The first hours of the siege are pure, concentrated chaos. Your main problem now is not the enemy outside the walls, but the panic inside the city. Modern man is accustomed to instant access to information, but here there is none, only frightening rumors. Townspeople rush through the narrow streets, trying to save their property or storming grocery stores in the hope of stocking up. Your first and most important task is not to become part of this frenzied crowd. In a medieval city under siege, a brutal martial law is instantly imposed. If you look like a useless and panicked element, you will either be thrown out of the gates at the mercy of the enemy so as not to feed an extra mouth, or sent to do the dirtiest and most dangerous work. The main advice at this stage is mimicry. You need to quickly find those who remain calm. Usually these are workshop masters or garrison veterans who've seen this kind of thing before. You need to instantly integrate into the hierarchy. In the Middle Ages, individuality was not valued at all. You must become a useful link in the system, a water carrier, a trench digger, or a blacksmith's assistant. Your modern brain must work with cold calculation. Immediately assess the water reserves in the nearest well and the direction of the wind to understand which way the incendiary shells will fly. The main thing is to suppress your initial fear and realize that the old rules of life no longer apply. You can survive without food for several weeks, but without water, the city will fall in a matter of days. The besiegers know this very well. The first thing an experienced enemy will do is try to poison or completely cut off the sources of water flowing into the city. Your #1 priority is to control access to a clean well. Forget about washing your hands under the tap and taking showers. Every drop is now strictly accounted for. In medieval cities, wells were often located dangerously close to cesspools. The risk of contracting dysentery in a confined space is simply enormous. As a modern person, you will have to use your knowledge of microbes, but you must do so quietly. If you start explaining the basics of microbiology to superstitious guards, they will take you for a madman or a sorcerer. Just try to boil the water if you can make a fire, or mix it with sour wine or vinegar. This was the standard method of disinfection at the time, proven over centuries. Remember that during a siege, a sip of rotten water kills much more reliably than an enemy arrow. Constantly monitor the water level in the city reservoirs. If it starts to drop rapidly, it means that the end is near, and it's time to change your survival strategy to a more radical and daring one. Forget about delivery services and full store shelves. At the very beginning of a siege, city authorities usually confiscate all surplus food from the population. Your daily diet turns into so-called siege bread. This is a dubious mixture of flour, bran, and sometimes even ordinary sawdust for volume. Meat will be the first to disappear from sale. First, horses will be eaten, then it will be the turn of dogs and cats. It sounds gruesome, but such is the harsh reality of survival. Your modern body, accustomed to vitamins and high-quality protein, will begin to deteriorate very quickly. Your main resources in these conditions are fat and salt. If you have your own small reserves, hide them as if they were rare diamonds. The smell of food being cooked in a starving city is almost a guaranteed death sentence. Learn to eat little and very slowly to trick your stomach. Your task is to maintain at least a minimum level of energy to work. Don't waste calories on empty vanity and unnecessary conversation. Here's an interesting historical fact. During long sieges, people often began to boil leather items, such as belts or shoes, to obtain at least some gelatin. But remember that modern leather is treated with caustic chemicals. In the Middle Ages, it was completely natural, so your current leather belt is more likely to poison you than save you from starvation. Look for grain hidden deep in basements and save every crumb. Hunger is not just an empty stomach, it is a thick fog in your head that prevents you from making vital decisions. In a closed city, where thousands of people and hundreds of horses are locked up and there is no sewage system, unsanitary conditions become absolute. Mortality from disease during sieges often exceeded combat losses by 5 or even 10 times. Typhus, cholera, and dysentery are your most formidable enemies. For modern people, accustomed to sterility and antiseptics, this is the most dangerous stage of survival. Our immune systems are simply not ready for such an aggressive cocktail from the past. Your main strategy here is distance. Avoid crowds of people if at all possible. In the Middle Ages, people did not understand the true causes of disease, believing them to be bad smells or divine punishment. You know the truth about bacteria. Wash your hands thoroughly, even without soap, just with clean sand and water. Never touch your face with dirty hands, and try to stay as far away as possible from hospitals and places where bodies are collected. If a real epidemic has started in the city, your chances are dwindling by the hour. The only way to survive is to practice strict personal hygiene in the absence of any hygiene around you. Use vinegar to wipe your skin if you can get it from merchants. And most importantly, during this period, any small scratch can be fatal due to gangrene or blood poisoning. In a world where antibiotics have not yet been invented, cleanliness is not a matter of comfort, but your only shield. If you have been mobilized to the walls, congratulations, you are at the very epicenter of events. Medieval defense is a complex and sophisticated system. You need to know exactly where to stand during a bombardment. Never stand directly behind the stone battlements if heavy trebuchets are hitting the wall. Stone fragments act like real shrapnel when they hit. The best place for you is in special niches or under wooden canopies that protect you from the enemy's projectiles. You will see with your own eyes how siege engines work. These are not beautiful scenes from a historical film, but deafening roars, screams, and debris flying in all directions. If the enemy rolls up a huge siege tower, your job is to prevent them from throwing a bridge over the wall at all costs. Anything that comes to hand is used. Boiling resin, hot sand that is poured under armor and literally bakes the enemy alive, or simply heavy stones. It would be incredibly difficult for a modern person to overcome the psychological barrier and kill other people so close, looking them in the eyes. But there is only one rule on the wall. It's either you or them. Learn to quickly reload your crossbow or bring heavy stones to the catapults. And always keep a close eye on the ladders. They can be placed in the most unexpected places under the cover of thick smoke from fires. Walls only give the illusion of safety, but they can also become your trap if they are undermined in time. Silence is the most frightening sound you can hear during a siege. If the enemy suddenly stops firing stones at the walls, it is quite possible that they have begun digging a tunnel under the foundation. This is a hidden mine war. The besiegers dig a tunnel under the base of the main tower, install massive wooden supports there, and then set them on fire so that the wall collapses under its own weight. How can you, a modern person, notice this? Use basic physics knowledge. Place a copper basin filled to the brim with water on the ground, or place small pebbles or peas on it. The slightest vibration of the earth will reveal the work of enemy diggers.
If you hear a clear rhythmic knocking from under the ground, it's time to sound the alarm immediately. Defenders often dig their own countermines to intercept the enemy's tunnel and collapse it. If you happen to take part in such an underground battle, it will be the most terrifying adventure of your life. Oppressive confinement, complete darkness, lack of oxygen, and fierce knife fighting in a narrow passage. Here, the skills of beautiful fencing are completely irrelevant. Only your ferocity and a short blade matter. Surviving in such a tunnel is a matter of tremendous luck and the ability to navigate in space by sound alone. Underground warfare is a battle between engineers and suicide bombers, and your analytical mind can be very useful here for accurately calculating the direction of the enemy's tunnel.
A siege is not only physical exhaustion, but also constant psychological terror. The enemy will throw more than just stones at the city. They will use burning barrels of tar, carcasses of dead animals to spread disease, and even the heads of fallen defenders to demoralize the survivors. You must be prepared for constant, chronic sleep deprivation. False alarms at night wear down defenders much more than daytime assaults. For modern people, accustomed to comfort, silence, and safety, this psychological pressure will be almost unbearable. The city gradually turns into a cramped can with spiders. Religious fanaticism will grow with each passing day. Exhausted people will begin to look for someone to blame for all their troubles. Be extremely careful. Any strange behavior on your part, such as attempts to filter water or draw incomprehensible diagrams on the walls, can easily be mistaken for espionage or forbidden witchcraft. Your task is to blend in with the locals as much as possible, participate in communal prayers or strengthening the barricades. Don't stand out from the crowd. Moral fortitude is your main resource. If you fall into apathy, you will stop paying attention to hygiene and danger, and that is a sure and quick path to the grave. Remember that any siege is a test of endurance. Who will break first? Those locked inside, or those outside who are also gradually running out of supplies and facing epidemics in their camp? Historical fact. Most often, impregnable cities fell not because of a successful assault, but because of banal betrayal. Someone from among the inhabitants or guards will decide that their own life is more valuable than loyalty to their lord and simply open the side gate at night. Or a spontaneous riot of the hungry mob would break out in the city, sweeping away the defenses from within. You always need to have a pre-planned Plan B. Where exactly will you hide if the enemy suddenly breaks into the city through the open gates? Study the architecture of the city you find yourself in beforehand. Narrow, winding streets are a complex labyrinth where you can successfully hide from patrols. Know where the monasteries are located. Sometimes they had the right of ecclesiastical asylum, although in the heat of bloody slaughter this rule rarely worked. But most importantly, keep a close eye on the mood of the garrison. If the mercenaries stop getting paid, they will be the first to try to negotiate with the enemy to surrender. Your modern political savvy will help you spot the first signs of the city's imminent fall. Officials begin to hide their valuables, and the guards turn a blind eye to minor violations. At such a critical moment, it is important to be as far away as possible from the main gates and the central square, where the main and most brutal slaughter usually takes place. Surviving the final stage of a siege is the art of disappearing in time from the radar of those looking for easy prey. When the walls are finally breached or hunger reaches its limit, the final assault begins. It is absolute chaos in which there are no longer any rules. Unless you're a professional warrior, don't even try to be a hero on the front lines against knights clad in steel. They have been trained to kill their entire lives, and you have not. Your only task at this stage is to survive the city massacre that has begun. The enemy, who has broken into the city after a grueling months-long siege, will be in indescribable fury. According to the laws of the time, the city is often given to soldiers to plunder for 3 days. This is the most terrible time for all survivors. Your best friend now is complete inconspicuousness. Forget about nice clothes, smear your face with soot or dirt, try to look like a beggar or a seriously ill person. Hide in the most foul-smelling and darkest places you can find, in deep basements or sewage ditches. If you have gold hidden away, don't even think about showing it. Right now, it's your death sentence, not your salvation. It will buy you your ticket to freedom much later. The main rule during the massacre: never run. A running person is the perfect target for a pursuer. Try to hide and wait silently for the first, most terrible wave of violence to pass. Most civilians die in these first hours at the hands of soldiers driven mad by the smell of blood. If you can survive the first night after the fall of the city, your chances of coming out of this story alive increase dramatically. Let's briefly summarize everything that has been said. To survive in the conditions of a medieval siege, you need to strictly follow 5 rules. First, make yourself useful immediately. There's no place for tourists or observers in a besieged city. Your skills as an engineer, medic, or even just your strong, hard-working hands should serve the community. Useful people are fed and protected until the very last moment. Second, practice secret hygiene. Always boil water, disinfect any wounds with wine, and stay away from piles of filth. Your knowledge of the nature of diseases is your main advantage, but use it discreetly so as not to arouse suspicion. Third, manage your resources strictly. Count every calorie and don't make unnecessary movements. Carefully hide your supplies from prying eyes. Food in a siege is both the highest currency and life itself. Fourth, keep quiet and observe carefully. Don't talk too much about the future or strange technologies. Study crowd psychology and notice signs of possible betrayal in your surroundings. Your brain is your most powerful weapon, not a heavy sword. And fifth, always have an escape plan. Know the city like the back of your hand. You must know in advance where to hide and how to get out of the city through the sewers or a secret passageway forgotten by everyone if the main walls do fall.
So, can our modern man survive this historical nightmare? Answer: yes, but only if he can kill the spoiled man of comfort within himself in time. Our knowledge is indeed a huge advantage. We understand how mechanisms work and how infections invisible to the eye spread. But our main weakness is our complete inability to adapt to constant physical suffering and appalling unsanitary conditions. In such a situation, it is not the physically strongest who will survive, but the most adaptable. Those who figure out how to use the cold logic of the 21st century in the harsh setting of the 13th. What do you think? Write in the comments what modern skills would help you survive a siege. And don't forget to subscribe.